Hello and welcome to Damnable Delvings, where I delve into the damnable world of horror media. Today is a haul video. It's been a while since I've done any hauls, so I'm doing several in a row, as it were. So I'm going to start off with a couple of things that I've had recently. This was a present that my wife bought me. It's a book that I've been looking for a little while, mostly just because I love the title so much. It's by Claire McNally, who wrote Somebody Come and Play, which I reviewed a little while ago on my channel. But this one is called What About the Baby? And it's 1824. A young mother returns home to find her infant son brutally murdered in his cradle. Her tortured grief led to a consuming desire for vengeance. Now, for Gabrielle Hansen, 17, orphaned and pregnant, her lonely world becomes a place of unimagined terror. Bizarre chants invade her mind, ellipsis. Death plagues her dreams, ellipsis. Blood desecrates her room, ellipsis. For she has been adopted by an undying evil from the past, an evil that has come for only one precious thing, her baby. What about the baby? So I look forward to reading that, because I quite enjoyed Somebody Come and Play. Other than that, a little while ago, went for a little trip around various second-hand bookshops in the North Derbyshire area, and had a shockingly poor time trying to find anything at all, really, even outside of the horror genre, even in the science fiction and fantasy genre. I was in a shop at the same time as various other people, and I did see a young man go up to the counter and say, "Where do you put your horror, science fiction and fantasy?" And the lady behind the counter pointed to a corner where there was a meagre supply of tatty old Star Trek books. So I knew I was not going to find anything good there. But in an Oxfam second-hand bookshop, I did manage to find this, The Darkening Flood by Kenneth C. Flint. Which is, I believe, a dark fantasy. An ancient Celtic evil awakes to reclaim its domain. So that looks quite good, even though it's not really a horror. It's definitely more of a dark fantasy, but it's clearly an American publication. It's a Bantam book from 1995. It feels older though. It looks older, but it is from 1995. We also, my wife and I, popped out into our local town to find some horror fiction, if we could, second hand. I didn't really find anything I was looking for. It was from Eagle Books. I did a haul from a little while ago, but she found this 1990s copy of James Herbert's The Magic Cottage, which she really liked, and also found a copy in hardback of one of her favourite books of all time, Needful Things by Stephen King, with a lovely big Stevie on the back there. And this edition is from, I should look this up in advance, really, shouldn't I? It's hard to say. It's a book club edition, which is why it's a little bit smaller. So this is a 1992 reprint of a 1991 edition. So almost 80s. I'm pretty sure, actually, this is the exact edition of Needful Things that I read many years ago, probably around the time it actually came out as a book club edition, because my family did belong to a book club, and I did get quite a few horror novels from book clubs. Remember those, eh? Now, I've been part of various groups on Facebook around retro horror novels, and a very nice person on one of the groups who works or volunteers in a charity shop had received a variety of books come in, and I asked if anybody wanted them, and I noticed several James Herberts that I didn't have, and I asked if it would be possible for him to send them to me, which he did very quickly, which was very kind of him. And because of that, I have this lovely edition of Moon by James Herbert, which has got one of these lovely cutaway corners there. I love that. Well, there is a little bit of damage there, which is unfortunate, but for £1 you can't really complain, can you? And this lovely yellowed book is from, I don't know because it won't let me open the page, 1987. This is an 8th impression of a 1985 edition. So lovely. Can't go wrong with a bit of James Herbert. I've read loads of James Herbert. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've read Moon in the past. And we've also got this very nice edition of The Survivor by James Herbert, which I have not read. It's again slightly damaged. This one is quite old though. This is a 1977 edition of a 1976 book, a New England Library book, and I've definitely not read this one. I have no memory of this one at all, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. You can't go wrong with a bit of James Herbert. I had actually forgotten that while I was in Eagle Books, I did pick up a James Herbert for myself as well, which is this lovely edition of Haunted, which I believe they based a film on, starring, if I remember correctly, Kate Beckinsale, right at the beginning of her career, before she was a sort of jumpy around all over the place vampire and a sort of whatever she is in Van Helsing, I don't know. And this edition is from 1989. It's a 1989 edition of a 1988 publication, Haunted. I remember the film being quite good, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. Now, as well as that, I also did another order to awesomebooks.com, not .co.uk, which is what I initially said in my video, which meant I had to edit it, but from awesomebooks.com. I managed to get another discount code. I can't remember how now, and I got these back in February, but I haven't been able to show them to you yet because I've been too busy doing things. It's a remarkably vague comment, but I'm going to leave it at that. So the first thing I had from there was Hellfire by John Saul. I've already got a couple of other John Sauls. The new super suspense thriller by the best-selling author of Nathaniel and Brainchild. It's like they didn't want to call it a horror novel. So this is from, this feels 80s, but I'm not exactly sure. It's a Bantam novel, and it's 1986. Very nice. So I do like John Saul, actually. Yeah, just Brian Lumley, who we lost quite recently, very sadly. The House of Cthulhu. Basically, it's got the word Cthulhu in it, so I wanted it. And it's Brian Lumley who has written around the Cthulhu mythos for many years. Tossed out from the heart of Surtsey, a volcano risen from the sea off Iceland, a ball of weird glass contains the last relics of a world long vanished when Atlantis was young. Translated from glyphs out of time, now at last the stories and histories of the primal land can be told. Tales of sorcery, of demons, heroes, and perilous quests, and of a doomed wizard's search for immortality. So it's kind of a fantasy. A fantasy based, I think, around the Cthulhu mythos. I'm not actually particularly familiar with it, but I'm going to look forward to that. Mostly because they're nice little short stories, so you can pick them up and read one here and there whenever you feel like it. Talking of the classic author Stephen King, here is a nice movie tie-in edition of Firestarter, with little tiny baby Drew Barrymore on the front. Oh. This is I have read Firestarter, but I've probably read it back in the 80s. This is a 1986 edition of his 1980 novel Firestarter. So I'm trying to think when the film of Firestarter came out. 84, I think, if I remember correctly. So this would probably have been maybe one of the first tie-in editions of that novel. I can't remember the film, which doesn't bode well, does it? I have seen it, but I can't remember anything about it other than the fact that Drew Barrymore's in it and there's fire, which she starts. We also have another James Herbert. This is a very James Herbert heavy episode, but that's okay because James Herbert is one of the greatest horror novelists of all time, and as I've said before, I'm pretty sure the inspiration for Garth Marenghi. The leather jackets, isn't it? So this is The Spear, and this is a 1980 New England Library edition of a 1978 novel. I have read this, but I can't really remember anything about it at all. I'm assuming the spear is referencing the spear that supposedly pierced Jesus' side, but again, I can't remember anything about it, so I might have that completely wrong. But it would seem likely to me that it will be something to do with that. We also have a welcome return by Claire McNally. Good old Claire McNally. this is Come Down into Darkness. She had waited for 100 years and now the evil could live again. I get the impression that most of Claire McNally's books are sort of ghost stories. And this appears to be no exception. There were dark stories of murder and suicide told about it, the house that had been empty for 20 years. But it was just what Doreen Addison was looking for. Big, inexpensive and secluded. Like me. It was perfect for her child refuge. At first it was just a crazy man in the woods and a dead cat on the back porch. But then the children started seeing and hearing a beautiful woman dressed in black, and there was a terrible accident in the cellar. Something wasn't right about this house. And then the nightmare really started as the children disappeared and Doreen found herself confronting an evil power beyond her understanding. Only one thing could save her and the children from destruction, and she must discover the secret of the woman in black who commands them all to come down into darkness. Woman in Black. That'd make a great title for a story. So, we also have, last but definitely not least, from my awesomebooks.com order, Graham Masterton. We love Graham Masterton at this channel. Family Portrait, which I have not read. This is a Arrow publication, and I am thrilled to announce that it has what is known in the trade as a step back cover. So what we have here is we have the cover. As you can see, there is a portrait there with broken glass, but then it's a hole, and inside is the creepy portrait within. Yeah, so I was very excited about this because I am easily pleased. And this book is from 1985. It may even be a first edition. I am not able to tell. But very nice. It's a first edition paperback, so it's not really worth anything. But this is yeah. I do love these kind of covers, and I feel like these are the epitome of what 1980s horror novels are. Big gold letters on the front, a little hole in the front cover where you can see something through it. What does it say about it? They found the first body in Europe. She had once been a pretty, fresh-faced girl, but with exquisite skill, someone had carefully teased the skin entirely away from her body. She had been skinned alive! The second blood-raw corpse turned up in New England, and then another, this time uncut, but convulsed with writhing maggots. Then two frightened men combined to fight the demonic power which gathers around a fading Victorian painting. Family Portrait. For generations it was guarded in secret, but as its surface flakes and crumbles, a terrible force is reawakened, and the fate of those who come into contact will be the worst thing in the world. Oh dear. So, yes, lovely. A brilliant chiller of ultimate evil. So a little bit of Graham Masterton there. At the moment, I am currently reading, not a vintage novel, I'm currently reading Black Sheep, which came in my Abominable Book Club. I'm about a third of the way through and I am enjoying it a lot. So I'll probably do a review of this one shortly when I've finished it. I do mean to do a review of a couple of other novels. Hallows Eve by Christopher Golden and Halloween Night by R.L. Stine. I was going to do a joint review of the two of those, but I haven't got around to it yet, although I have read them. Last but not least, my wife has offered to write some capsule reviews of some books that she's reading. So the book she has most recently read is this, A Helping Hand. This novel is by Celia Dale, and it was originally published in 1966, but this edition is from 2022, so it's basically brand new, but it is a beautifully published edition for fans of Shirley Jackson, Roald Dahl and Muriel Spark. She's just finished it, she really enjoyed it, and she's going to give me her thoughts on this for a video in the future. But I mean, certainly from the cover is absolutely gorgeous. They should publish more books that look like this. So that's all I've got to talk about for the moment. There'll be some more videos coming soon. I'm toying again with the idea of doing more film reviews. I did do a film review for that folk horror film recently, but we have watched quite a lot of horror films recently. We've seen Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls, which is a horror comedy, which I highly recommend. We've seen a variety of other bits and bobs, so I might do a little compilation of the recent horror movies we've been watching recently. We've also become quite big fans of the channel Dead Meat and have been enjoying their kill counts, so they're worth checking out if you like revisiting horror movies you've seen in the past and learning a little bit more about how they were made, and also seeing people die again, which I'm a big fan of, as long as it's a film. So that's everything I've got to tell you today. I'll be back again in the near future. I've got another Abominable Book Club coming sort of within the next couple of weeks, so that should be fun to see. But until then, stay creepy.